So this is when you have to watch what you say because we're broadcasting live, but it doesn't feel like it. So you could let something slip you shouldn't. Something you may regret.
It's good to know.
Yeah. They're out there listening.
Yeah. Hell with them.
Yep, it's showing up on my phone. We're live.
We're live.
Welcome to the Flivver Channel live stream. I'm Steven, and on my YouTube channel, Flivver Channel, I explore the quirky and fascinating world of pre-war cars. Joining me today is Rob, who tries to balance his love for the relatively modern Model A Ford with his passion for the more primitive Model T, and Randall, honorary member of Possum Lodge, from the YouTube channel Shed by the Tracks, where he dispenses grandpa wisdom as he builds an incredible Model T Speedster from, well, let's face it, from pure determination and ingenuity.
Hey, just gotta hit that. There we go. Hello, guys.
There we are.
Good evening, everyone.
Hey. So, welcome to our August 1st live stream. We are broadcasting to the world here from my stinking hot garage in Paris, Ontario. And Rob, you're in a virtual studio.
Yes, I chickened out, and the garage was well over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So I said, the heck with that. Let's move into the office and put in a virtual background.
You guys are wise. Yeah, that's good. And Randall down in Iowa, having a hot summer.
Yep. Well, yeah. It's more than 85, you know. That's where you Canadians seem to pass out at is 85.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's what becomes unbearable at that temperature. Yeah. But luckily we've lost track of those degrees F freedom units and we don't know what 85 means anymore, so it's okay.
Yeah, yours always sounds better all the time. Even in the winter it sounds better.
Yeah, like we're at 32 out here in my garage right now. It doesn't sound that bad, eh?
But Randall, I had this glass of water out all day. Look, it's still liquid. Didn't freeze.
Didn't freeze. Bugnut says it was 100 degrees where he is.
Oh man, hey Bugnut.
Yeah, look at I've got a can of water here, and it's just like sweating and dripping.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, going to keep me going tonight.
Yeah, we're in the middle of a real heat wave here, and we're a few days in. Anyone without air conditioning is really wishing that they made different decisions.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and other news, Rob and I are going to a car show on Saturday here in Ayr, Ontario. So that's the first one we've been to together, right, Rob? I don't think we've been to a car show together.
It will be the first car show, yes, that's right. Yeah, not the first tour, but the first car show.
You've got you're in the enviable position where you get to choose which car to take.
Yes, I had a choice between the 17 Touring or pull out the 29 Model A. The Model A with the hardtop is surprisingly cool, and what's nice about it is that I can tilt the windshield out. On my 17, I can only tilt the top half down, and that does give you pretty much all the bugs you can eat, but it does cool you down a little. I do tend to drive the Model A if it's really hot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, that's good. And I think you're camping too, right? So if there's any rain, the Model A is going to be a lot more capable.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Good. Well, we'll see you Saturday, and we'll get some footage and share it with our followers. So tonight we're going to be talking about Rob's triple gear troubles. he's got an interesting story to share, and we've got some good photos. And at some point, at an appropriate moment, I can share some diagrams of the Model T transmission, and we can dig in and see if it helps us with understanding of what's going on and what might have gone wrong and that sort of thing. So I'll share that at the appropriate moment as well, if I can figure out how. Here we go. But hopefully our viewers will interrupt with lots of questions along the way, and Randall and I will poke fun and try and stir things up with some hooliganism and such as well. So it's about, I think we'll hand the microphone off to you, Rob, and you can start by introducing this topic for us tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess to start, I just want to set the stage with respect to the how the story all began. If you imagine yourself about to take off for a short tour, a short ride, and you start your Model T, you have your parking brake engaged, you are thus in neutral, you start it up, you rev up the engine a little, you get it running nice and as it should, and then you push your parking brake forward part way, and you start to press on the low speed band. And at that moment, imagine your entire transmission jams up. It lunges your car forward, and you end up jumping about 6 feet and coming to an abrupt stop. That is exactly what I faced last September. And so this.
What did that sound like?
Well, it was a very loud bang. First of all, like an abrupt, almost like you threw a wrench into the gears, and it was a loud bang followed by a real strong jump. I mean, if the Model T ever had any chance of spinning its rear wheels, that was the time. And so let me just go back here for a second. So what happened after that event, I ended up doing as one would do. I lifted up the floorboards, I opened up the inspection panel, and I looked in, and I could see gear teeth missing. And I said, well, oh no, this is much bigger than my first thought was that perhaps the high speed clutch, so that brass ring that engages or disengages the high speed clutch, I was thinking maybe that broke, and then it just locked itself into high gear. No such luck, unfortunately. It was the much more expensive alternative to that. So it took 3 of us to push the car back into the garage.
How do you push it in high gear though? Like,
well, you have 2 options. One is you jack it up somehow on those those trolleys that you can put underneath the wheels.
Okay.
Or you can pull the spark plugs and you can get rid of the compression to make it easier. Mm-hmm. Or you can do none of those things and just push it in high gear, which is what I did.
Really hard. Push it really hard.
Yeah. At the moment, I wasn't exactly in a position where I was really able to think about different alternatives. In this case, I already had the car on the street, and it was actually just parked on the side of the street. So yeah. I had to move it 30 feet, right, and one way or another before I could really look at it. So,
is there any other way to push it? I guess if you had like a floor jack, you could jack up one rear wheel
Yeah.
and roll the floor jack forward, and the other wheel would turn through the differential, right?
Yeah, you could do that. The only problem with that is because it was parked on the street and there's that little hump before there's like,
Oh, the driveway.
the driveway, right? And any sort of small wheels like that, caster wheels, like they would probably get stuck.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, if you're on gravel, it'd never go either.
yeah. So luckily there was a neighbor that watched all of this calamity happen. And then I had a brother-in-law who's probably watching tonight come and help push the other 33% of the weight. So. Anyhow.
Oh, that's funny.
Anyhow, I got it in the garage. It was clearly not something that you're going to fix in a day, and you're now in a situation where you need to you've got to pull the engine. You have to pull the engine and the transmission. You're going to have to see what's going on. So before I pulled the engine out of the car, I did remove the hogshead right in situ. And sure enough, looking down, I could see that the low speed gear range on the triple gears, each triple gear was missing at least one tooth. And I'm going to switch over to these images just to provide some additional context. So this is the engine coming out at this point in time. Don't mind the blue color on the T. That was remedied. It had been like that for many years, but it was time to go with a proper color if I ever got this fixed. So fast forwarding ahead here, this is after the transmission came off of the car. You'll see that, and I have a circle around one of the missing triple gear teeth. And that was consistent through all three of the triple gears. Looking at the drums, so this is what you're looking at here in the circle is the corresponding low speed gear. So this is attached. This is part of the low speed drum. And you can see that things were so buggered and jammed together that it actually tore a chunk out of the spur gear itself. And so the metal that you're seeing underneath that is actually the shaft that comes out of the brake drum, right? And the brake drum is what rides on all of this, right? Or I'm sorry, everything rides on the brake drum. So it was a fatal situation. There was nothing that could be done short of a rebuild at this point. But I really was keen on finding out why that happened, right? Like my first thought was, well, it can't be like 15 million Model Ts were made, so it can't be a design flaw. So it has to be something else, right? Is it something I did? Is it something that, was it wear? Was it, what was the cause of it? And I did get my answers on that, by the way. So if I go here to, let's see, this is the last slide here, right? So this is a good, this is actually a good point to talk about the drums and the triple gears and how they work. So for anybody watching who has never seen a transmission from a Model T before, or if you have, but you've never really taken the time to think about how it all goes together, this is a fairly simple diagram that gives you really the major components to the transmission, right? And there really aren't so many of them, actually. In this case, you see there is on the starting from the far right is your flywheel, right? So you can imagine that if you have an electric start and whatnot, you'll have a ring gear around that. You'll also have your magnets affixed to the right side.
Here, Rob. Let's we can see that here. So the flywheels.
There it is.
Your orange one.
Yes.
And then your triple gears are tucked in here.
Yes.
Your low speed Sorry, the reverse drum,
Reverse.
and then the low speed drum, and then the brake drum, right?
Exactly right. That's a fantastic diagram there, by the way. Yeah, exactly. And actually, if you leave this on for a moment, this is probably a better diagram to speak to. So the flywheel is sort of the base of the operations, right? And so what you have is,
Whoa.
oh,
I'll fix it. Sorry.
yeah, no problem.
There we go.
So there we go. Yeah. So imagine, so your flywheel is bolted to the end of your crankshaft, right? And so every rotation of your engine, one rotation of your crank equates to a single rotation of that entire assembly there.
Yep.
Right. Oh, and Klep's Garage. Hey, Bruce, welcome. So you'll see the triple gears that I was mentioning before, and I was showing the missing teeth. Like you said, Stephen, they're tucked away sort of behind the reverse drum. Those three triple gears each have three gears corresponding to drums slash the driven gear. So starting from the flywheel moving inward, and let me just go back to my image for a quick moment here. You'll see the driven gear, which is what holds all three drums together on the brake drum shaft. The driven gear is associated with the far right gear set on the triple gears. The low speed is in the center, that center gear. I'm sorry, the reverse. I'm sorry, reverse is the center gear, and then the low speed is the no, I'm getting it mixed up. I'm sorry.
Here, color coding. We can make this all easier. Here's a cutaway.
There we go. I got them mixed up. Exactly. Yeah, that's right. So the low speed is the center gear on the triple gears. Yeah. And so if you recall the pictures that I was showing before, those were the teeth that were missing.
Yeah.
Right. And going back even further to when I described what happened and it how the transmission blew up just as I was pushing into low speed, it all sort of comes together and it starts to make sense. It's clear that something happened to the low speed gear set, right? And that's exactly what it was. When I disassembled the transmission further, what I found was that everything that is supposed to have a bushing with a clearance of 2 to 5 thousandths of an inch had far more than that. So I'll just jump back to my diagram here. The three drums, right? The low speed and the reverse drum ride on that brake drum shaft. So that brake drum shaft is riveted to the brake drum itself. Let me just remove that from stage, and I'm going to show you an example. I have two of the three drums that failed here. So you'll see that the low speed drum in the center, it rides on top of that shaft. What it's not supposed to do is this. I don't know how much you can tell here because unfortunately my artificial background is sort of taking over. But we've got an excess amount of play. You can probably see there. This is in excess of 10 thou of an inch, a little bit more than that actually. So what was happening was my drums were all loose on top of each other, right? The bushings had been well worn. In addition to that, going back here, the triple gears ride on the triple gear pins, right? And they rotate around. Those triple gear pins had been slightly worn, but even more disconcerting was the fact that the bushings inside, the brass bushings, had completely worn. You could rotate them a couple of degrees, right? Like, I mean, I didn't even bother to measure the the tolerance there. They were well worn. And so what I came up with was a conclusion that this was a tired transmission, right? Everything was worn out. Did I know that it was worn out? I knew it had been many decades since it had been likely touched, other than bands. And the question, 65 Bugnut, do you know how many miles are on the car? That's a very good question. I do not. This was my late grandfather's car, and I know he drove it a fair bit back in his prime and in his golden years, and I don't know how many miles went on that. But what I do know is that is likely the original transmission.
Well, that transmission's from a 26 or 27, right, Rob?
Yeah, that's right. It's from that engine, right? So,
right.
So
do you know when they put that engine into it?
I'm going to surmise around 1970.
So since 1970 for sure, and it was probably used engine, almost certainly a used transmission. So further wear since that time. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It almost certainly was not rebuilt at that time. I think what happened was he likely sourced this engine and sat it in the car. I mean, it is a 1917 car. Everything else about it is 17, except it does have the block as well as the accessories, the generator and starter attached. And of course, as you can see here, the wider transmission band.
Right.
So in conclusion, everything was worn, right? The low speed and the reverse drums were all wiggling on the brake drum. The brake drum shaft itself was loose. It is riveted in there, and you can kind of see, you'll see I have one drilled out, and you'll see that I have one new rivet that I used to practice on before I worked on my new set of drums. So I wanted to make sure that I could successfully rivet that together, which I could. So that one rivet holds it all now at the moment. But if that was drilled out, everything, like the whole shaft, would just move. So everything was just completely tired. It was bound to happen, and the only answer was a full rebuild. So going forward here, so here's a shot of myself and with and a big thanks to the folks at Dixie's Upholstery in Kitchener, Ontario, who provided a ton of help, both in the machining and sourcing parts and everything. So
I'm sure, Rob, you would have used only all brand new parts, right, when you're repairing this?
So I used good conditioned used drums. I used brand new bushings. I used brand new rivets. All of the anything that had a tolerance requirement other than the thickness of the drum itself was new. So by sourcing good used drums, I mean, that saved a ton of money. And so if you're at swap meets in the future, audience, and you see a good price on transmission parts, buy them up, because they are becoming more and more rare. So once you rivet, by the way, you need to machine. You need to clean up the inside of the drum, because you have surfaces that you have the 3 washers, I believe it was next, and those 3 washers need a flat surface. So you need to get them on the lathe and machine that surface down.
So that's the brake drum?
So this is the brake drum.
Yeah.
And what we have is the brake drum shaft is in the chuck.
Yeah.
And so we're machining, so it's sort of in fast motion there, so it's a
Yeah.
little blurry, but what we're doing is we're machining down the heads of the new rivets that went in.
Okay. So here, let's flip just for a second to my diagram because I've got it cut away. I think we can see that. So we're talking about the red drum here and this shaft that is cut here being attached to the drum itself, right?
That is correct. Yeah.
Or
And
is it
again,
this one at this end, the output shaft?
no, that is different. So that drum, so your low speed and your reverse drums, they ride on top of the brake drum shaft.
Drum shaft with the gear on the end, the red gear on the end, right?
That is correct. Yeah, that's right. Because
so this gear's down deep in the throat of the lathe there in that photo then?
That gear is nowhere to be found. That gets pressed on later.
Later. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So right now, all you have, and actually I can take the one drum off. Just give me a moment here, and I will show you.
Catch up to you here in a second. There we go.
There we go. So I just removed this other, and actually I think I'm going to have to stop that background. I'll just stop it for a moment. So this is a better view here. So this is what a brake drum looks like with the shaft attached, right? And so your low speed, which has a brass bushing, and again, this one is quite worn. This will slide on. It's sort of chewed up because of what happened. And then on top of this will be your reverse drum, right? So your reverse drum rides on your low drum, which rides on your brake drum. And then at the very end, right here, you'll see this is where you would press on your driven gear, right? And there's a great big key that goes in there to lock it in place as well. And that gets pressed on at the very end, and then that locks your three drums together, but they can all spin independently of each other, right? Now, before I was showing the how much play, and the camera really didn't want to cooperate, but if I go like this now, let me just see. So you see how much play that is. That cannot be, right? You need again, the transmission rebuild book from the Model T Ford Club of America notes the tolerances to be between 2 and 5 thou of an inch, right, for all of the bushings, actually equally. There we go. So going back here. So after the machining, I'm just this is just one of the bands. This is the brake band, brand new Kevlar linings that I'm preparing to rivet on. It's a good time if you've done everything else. It's a good time to be. You may as well go new on everything else. Right? So there we go. Essentially, the transmission's back together. The engine has been cleaned up, and while you have everything out, once again, this engine in particular had decent Babbitt. So, and actually the cylinder walls were decent. So I went with new rings, lapped in new valve springs, and that was about it. So back together and thrown in, and just in time to pack it away for the end of season here in Ontario last year. So,
and you had to do this in record time, as I recall, because you were on a deadline.
I had a deadline. Yes, I had to get this into storage before snowfall, which in southern Ontario can be
July or August, right?
yeah. Actually, we're due tonight. Yeah, yeah. So, November is when you can start to see sleet and whatnot. Last year, though, in particular, we had almost no snow at all, right? And
Mhm.
so I had more time. So I ended up wrapping this up the first week of December. Um, so this happened in late September, and I had it back together in at the early December. So it was
Now,
a
all
job.
those all those bushings that you bought new, the bronze bushings for the flywheel, the three flywheel pins, and the bronze bushings for each of the drum shafts, are they correctly sized when you buy them, or do you have to resize them as you install them?
Yeah, they are correctly sized, give or take, when you buy them, until you press them in, and then they're no longer sized. And so you really need access to. I mean, ideally, a machine shop is choice number one. But I had been taught by a very experienced Model T and Model A engine builder, um, that it's much better to hone rather than like um, if you want to get the bushings to a certain tolerance, you want to go easy, and especially if you're trying to hone a bushing to an existing shaft, right?
Mhm.
Because the shaft may not be perfect, right? So
Right,
a reamer, conversely, will ream it to precisely whatever size it's spec for, right?
right.
But like in the case of, because you asked if I was using new drums, well, no, they were good used drums, but the shaft was used as well, and it was not completely true. So like we did touch it up a little bit in the lathe, but you don't have a lot of meat to play with, right?
Hmm.
The bushings, like I said, they would fit until you press them in, and then you get a few thou. But
Hmm.
that's where a honing machine is really good for that. So
So this is not like the hone on the end of the drill kind of honing machine. You're talking about either a horizontal or a vertical adjustable hone, right?
correct, exactly, yeah. And in this case, what we used was a horizontal hone with sort of a manual dial control to bring it
Mhm.
in, very very small increments.
And
And
they
the
have a
honing,
special fluid you need to use, right?
that's right, yeah. There's a honing fluid that you want to constantly be spraying into. This one had a hose that you just point right at what you're working on. So
That's tricky for those of us that don't have access to that kind of equipment. This is a big job. We got to find
yeah, yeah.
somebody who can do it.
Now, with that said, so
Hmm.
note that note that I told you all three drums ride on, well, one run rides on the other, right? And the reverse drum, which I don't have here, the reverse drum rides on this the low speed set here, right?
Mhm.
And that is uh, over 2 inches in diameter. That's two and a quarter, 2.5. Uh, there was no such honing accessory for that. So what I ended up using for that one was just one of the, um, like in Canada, there's Princess Auto. In the United States, it's Harbor Freight. Sort of your discount, your cheaper parts or tooling supplier. It was one of the brake honing tools, and it with the three like pucks, right? And it's spring loaded, and it was done in a drill.
Oh,
So
okay.
so I did do the third, the largest one with a drill.
Because that
Um,
was too big for your horizontal hone.
that's right, exactly. Yeah, the unique world of Princess Auto Shop Pat
Yeah,
Industries,
yeah.
indeed.
Yeah, the Canadian guys know it's our
Yeah,
equivalent of Harbor Freight. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's right. Yeah. So I mean, could you hone, like if you were just doing it in your own, like your own personal garage at home and without access to a machine shop, could you hone these bushings with something like a brake cylinder honing tool? probably you could just go real slow and make sure you have. I would go with very very short iterations, like hone for 30 seconds with honing fluid. You could just pour manually on it, and then test your fit, and just go carefully and slow and keep it even.
Because I'm paying close attention because my triple gears are really wobbly on their pins.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for the same thing to happen.
Well, so that is an interesting question, and I've wondered how. I've put a lot of thought into how do you catch this in advance, right? And like the triple gear wobbling is a sign, but it's not the only sign, right? If you reach in and, like, for example, if you are working on your, say you're replacing your bands, right? And you have all your bands out, presumably your hogshead is off. You can reach down and like just make sure you engage or pull your parking brake up so that your clutch isn't pressed, and you can wiggle. You can get a sense for any play in the drums, right? Because it's one thing for the triple gears to be slightly loose, right? And they do wear out over time, but check your drums. Make sure that they themselves are not wiggling, right? Because in my case, it was a combination of both. I'm pretty sure you had to have the precise, the unlucky lottery ticket that day, right? Where you just happen to have things wiggle in precisely the wrong direction at the same time, and then have two teeth try to hit the same tooth, right? So if you check your drums and they are still good, I mean, you're probably okay for a while. With that said, if you are concerned about it, they're probably it's something to really ponder. It would be a considerably cheaper job to only have to go in and replace bushings.
Yeah, but either way, you're pulling the whole engine and transmission, and you're taking the transmission off and all apart.
Yeah.
And you're pressing out or drilling out bushings and pressing in new ones and honing them like that. That is all got to be done. There's no shortcuts.
Yeah, no shortcuts. That's right. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. It almost, I think depending on how often we drive these things, right, which we tend to drive them more often than not, I think, right, Stephen? And Randall, I'm not sure about how often you get your tea out, but, it's almost worth, if we're going to be serious about it over the years, to have that sort of rebuilt spare on standby and then swap out. Yeah, so that you don't have to be out of a car for 6 months, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I hear you.
Yeah, Randall, I wanted to ask. I don't know if you've ever got into this mess like I have before, or similar.
No, I'm sitting here thinking about two things. Thinking about never driving mine again, and thinking about if I do drive it and it pops its top, how I could repair it with a kitchen knife and a ball-peen hammer. I just can't hardly believe that did that much damage. Just getting one of them gears cocked around a little bit, but you didn't find anything in there, so
No, there was nothing else. Like it's not like I left a washer in there or a screwdriver when I was or a wrench when I was tightening the bands or anything like that. No, it was clear, and I had been driving it a fair amount up until that point. Mm-hmm. It was toward the end of the season,
and it
right?
Didn't make any noise.
There was no noise.
No, it didn't act weird at all. It just one day went pop.
It just went pop. Yeah, that's it. It was, in fact, I started it earlier that day. I backed it out of the garage. I was making room for another vehicle that I was going to. I think it was an oil change I was doing. And I thought it was an easy day, and then I went back down to the street to start this, and that's when it happened. Yeah.
That does not fill me with hope.
Now,
Well, I don't know how common this is. Maybe Bruce, you can tell us, have you seen gears like this? Does this happen often, or is this a really unusual break?
He did say us seasoned tour guys usually have a spare motor ready to go, and that's really good advice if you're serious about it. And then there's a question, 65 Bugnut, a question about what oil you use.
Oh no, this is going to be a long live stream now.
This is where we get canceled.
Yeah. I can just see YouTube shutting us down now.
Well, I will just tell you what I use. Yeah. Go ahead, Randall.
That's a touchy subject, so I've decided to just not use any oil.
Yeah.
A little bit of WD-40 now and then is all you need, really.
Good. I just spray it in there and go.
Yeah. So this engine had. So when I had inherited the car, I know it had been run with straight 30-weight non-detergent for years. So I didn't dare run anything else in there. I certainly didn't want to add any detergent oil and start to have decades of gunk and metal shavings and whatnot start to move around in there. So I kept running it the straight 30-weight non-detergent. Since I have rebuilt it, and I didn't exactly rebuild the engine, but I did sort of overhaul it. I did have it completely apart. I cleaned it right up. I had the outside sandblasted, and the inside as well, except for the cylinders, for good reason. And I did use a product called Gliptol inside. Right, it's a non-permeable, high-temperature paint that you can use on the internal casing, and it will prevent. The Gliptol product will prevent old oil from kind of soaking into the cast iron. It also prevents things from getting, glued to it, right? Everything just kind of washes off. And so ever since I cleaned it all up and everything with Gliptol, I have been using a detergent oil. It was a toss up between like the Kendrill 20W50 oil or the Shell Rotella, the high zinc. It was the T4 Rotella, which is technically a diesel oil, but it's a good oil for these things as well. So that's what I ended up going with because it was more readily available for me.
Mm-hmm.
And what I did do, and the final slide here was, which I didn't show yet, but we ended up doing a big, it was a multi-day tour down in the Niagara Falls region, and Stephen has a couple of videos, 3 videos I think out about that tour. I did drive it from where I live to Niagara Falls to join them, and we're talking over 350 miles, well over 500 kilometers of travel after all of this is done.
That's just your break-in.
That was the break-in, yeah, that's right. And I have to say it performed really well. And the best thing, the transmission didn't blow up again.
That's good. We got our answer from Bruce here.
Oh yes, the car's 100 years old. There's a lot of wear. Metal fatigue is a factor now. Drums can and will shatter. Usually the gear noise is louder. Yes. I did notice when I pulled my transmission apart, the reverse drum, which is prone, they're all technically prone to cracking over time, but I did find a very small crack in, not on the drum surface itself, but back here between between two of these on the reverse drum. So it was time anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, oil in transmission. Now, Model Ts use the same oil in the engine and the transmission, which is a bit unfortunate because it means you can't kind of tune your oil for the way you want your transmission to operate unless you're willing to accept that oil in your engine.
Precisely. Yeah.
But
You know,
I know my little oil story. Sorry, go ahead, Randall.
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Tell us your oil story.
So my little why can't I get this to come up big? Here we go. My little oil story has to do with, I think, the multi-plate clutch in here. When you're in neutral or low or reverse, that multi-plate clutch, all those discs that are kind of a gold and a brown color on the screen there are sliding with respect to one another. And I was running 40 weight oil, like just straight 40 weight, which is really thick. And I found that I couldn't start the car without jacking one of the wheels. It would turn over really sluggish. Everything behaved poorly until the engine was hot. Then it was great. The transmission was smooth as slick once the engine was hot. But then if you shut it off at a car show and it cools down, you had trouble getting it started again a bit later. So this summer, I switched to a 5W20, which is much lighter when cold. And wow, what a difference. The car starts super easy now. I don't get all that drag. The car isn't always trying to move forward, even when you're in neutral. But am I risking some of the film thicknesses between my sloppy bushings in my transmission? Because I know the bushings in here are worn, and probably all the ones in here are worn too. So, I mean, the heavier oil would fill those films thicker. So I might be making a risk there. But I mean, I don't know. That oil is one of those mysteries. You never really know. You just kind of find something you're comfortable with. And if it lasts and works for you, you stick with it.
Yeah.
Yes. You do bring up a good point, Stephen. I've read on the forums, and I'm sure folks in our chat here have done the same about having things like an interference fit or just a too tight of a fit, especially the triple gears. They do need, I mean, they say a minimum of 2 thou clearance, but I think you're probably better with 3 or 4 thou, because you do need oil to get in there. And if it doesn't, sometimes people have had the bushing seize, and then the triple gear just rotates on the bushing, right? And that kills everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, you definitely want to be able to make sure that you have oil getting to all these places. I mean, really everything's splashing in there. It's splashing around. There's no pump per se, but you have your flywheel and your magnets just sloshing all that oil around. So it should get in there as long as there's enough clearance.
But one thing about this, the oil that I'll add is I run straight 30 weight Rotilla if I can get it. When I started buying Rotilla, they started running out of it, of course. So, I don't know who's using it all, but
it's Farmhand Hank, because he says he runs it and everything.
Yeah, I use that, and it works really well for me. Now I say that keeping in mind that if it gets below, if I go out to the garage and it's below 55, 60 degrees, I jack up a wheel because, I just don't trust it.
Yeah.
And, once I've started, I don't fiddle with it the rest of the day, and I hand crank mine. There's no starter on it. So when I started, I'm in front of the car.
Yeah.
So I just take it as the nature of the beast that it has to be jacked up in the morning, and that's that's just the route I go with it. Now, uh, what else was I gonna say, Grandpa? There was something else, but it's down the street and gone. So forget it.
It'll come back to you. Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to do a video this winter on some of the old wives' tales and some of the true stories and methods of getting these things started when it's really cold, like draining the oil and bringing it in, putting it on the stove, heating it up, taking it back out again. And same with your coolant. That'd be pretty fun. Some of the guys used to do a wood fire, and when it got to coals, they'd push the car over top of it and let it heat up the engine compartment.
One thing, when you're done driving it for the day and you got it parked in the garage, always throw that lever forward and loosen that clutch. Mm-hmm. Don't let it sit there all bound together all night, because then the oil gets cold and then it wants to creep ahead and run you over.
Yeah.
Randall, are you running the standard clutch discs, or do you have one of the Jackrabbit clutches?
Nope, I've got the clutch discs in it that it was born with, I think.
Okay, yeah. And it's funny,
unless somebody else puts them in there.
Right. It's funny how all of these are just a little bit different, right? Like this car, for whatever reason, I've never needed to jack up a wheel, even if it is cold. But we do have a family TT truck that if you don't, you're not even going to crank it. Like it is really, and the difference, I don't know. I don't know what that difference is, but yeah.
I don't know. That Jackrabbit clutch, I've just never even liked the sound of that when it comes to a Model T. I think the last thing you want to do with a Model T is Jackrabbit.
Yeah.
Well, Rob,
thing is that thick.
Yeah. You've put Rob's put the Jackrabbit clutch in. Does your car take off like a Jackrabbit now?
Well, I would like to say yes, but alas, it is about as fast as any other. So,
how does it feel?
Did you really notice a difference?
So I noticed a feel in the so when you go to engage, I actually have to be even a bit slower with the pedal than I did before. I was so used to the original clutch, and I just had such a good feel for it. But even to this day, it really likes to just engage, right? So you have to really be slow with the pedal. Really, what it is you're keeping 50% of your clutch discs. It's just the other 50% you're changing with these padded clutch discs, right?
Okay.
But when you get used to it, and if it's set up right, it can be a very smooth shift.
Okay, so it's not, despite its name, it's not grabby and launches you off the line or anything.
No, not quite like that. No.
Well, that's good to know, because they might be easier to get a hold of in the future.
Am I the only one here that has wood bands?
Bands? Yeah, of the three of us, I know Mark Osterman online. He's in Rochester. He just put wood in, and he really likes the feel of those. And he drives his every day. Yeah.
I've heard good things. I've heard great things.
It takes some break in, but once they're broke in, they are smooth as silk.
Nice.
Yeah. I was running Scandinavian, like the the original style cotton. When I pulled everything apart, the story that we talked about tonight, the oil return tube, the tube that runs from just around your flywheel to the front of the engine to feed your front main bearing. That tube was, I mean, there were a good 3 inches of cotton fabric that clogged it. So I don't think it had been getting a whole lot of oil into the front of the engine. But Yeah, so with Kevlar, my decision was to go Kevlar with the mainly just for, I guess, longevity of the bands, but also to try to limit that.
Hmm.
And I mean, so far so good, but I don't have that many miles on it.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know, Randall, that you put the wood bands on. You put those on yourself, I trust, when you were
Oh, yeah.
restoring your car. Yeah.
There's I can't tell you what the guy's name is. There's an excellent video on YouTube. Some old fellow putting them on,
Okay.
you know, and not using anything fancy, just putting them on.
Yeah, and just keeping them around, right? I hear if you let them get oval or anything, it's big trouble. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, everybody gets them all perfectly round. And then when they shove them in there, they bend the hell out of them.
They got they need to be round after you get them in. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how round they are when they're done, but they're round to start with.
Yeah, good. Interesting. Yeah, all right, cool. Well, that's neat. And we're glad your car's running well now, Rob. That's super. And the rebuild transmission should be good for another 100 years. So we'll check back in 100 years' time and see how it's doing.
Yeah, we'll check in, and I'll let you know of any deviations. But I think the biggest thing that I wanted to share was just I wanted to pass on the tale of the hazard of the risk of this happening. Right, it's a transmission might not be something that you think about very often. Usually it's you're wondering, is my Babbitt still good, or my wooden wheels, are they tight? But the transmission is something that we don't want to forget about, and I guess I did, or I didn't act on it soon enough. But I know now, and hopefully, folks watching won't have to suffer the same fate.
Yeah, great. All right.
Well, you got me scared.
He's gonna sell the car tomorrow.
No. But I bet you next time he has the cover off, he's going to check how wobbly those triple gears are.
Next month, I'll show you guys my new Model A.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got a story about Model A transmissions, but
that's for another day. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Oh dear. All right, guys. Well, with that said, then I think I'll fire up the outro here with our credits and say thanks to our visitors for joining and commenting. It was a fun discussion, and I hope the viewers enjoyed that story and learned as much as I did from Rob tonight. So thanks very much, Rob, for showing that to us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
And number one just arrived. Yeah, we're just at the end. Number one, sorry to say, we're signing off. So as usual, I'm a little slow finding all my bits and pieces. Here we go. All right, guys, I'm going to fire this up.
Thanks to my guests tonight, Rob and Randall. And thanks to the viewers who tuned in and those who participated. We appreciate it. Huge thanks to Rob for producing tonight's live stream and for working so hard to make us look like we sort of know what we're doing. And thanks to Randall for the music that he made for this show. Incredible talent. Thanks. Good night.